Part 5. The Ties That Bind. Arya stands in front of Syrio, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. The island around them is eerily quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. The Faceless Men's secrets are buried here, and Arya knows that no matter which path she chooses, she'll never be the same. Arya's heart raced as she stared at Syrio, who had once been the only person she could trust. But now, the truth about him and what he had become had shattered the foundation of everything she believed. He was no longer the teacher, the man who had shown her the way of the sword. He was something else entirely, a ghost, a shadow in the world of the Faceless Men. Arya, voice firm, trying to keep control. I don't know what you've become, Syrio, but it's not me. I'm not one of them. I'm not a killer in the dark, hiding behind a mask. Syrio Forel, cold, almost regretful. You're wrong, Arya. You're the last of us. You always have been. You've learned their ways, the water dance, the Faceless Men's secrets. You think you can walk away, but once you've learned the art of death, it never leaves you. Arya, shaking her head. I can choose my own path, Syrio. I don't need your legacy to define me. As the words left her mouth, Arya knew it wasn't just about choosing between the Faceless Men and her own identity. This was a battle within herself, a battle between the person she was becoming and the person she had once been. Suddenly, a loud crash breaks the silence. A dark figure bursts through the underbrush, slashing at the air. Arya spins, drawing needle in an instant, her senses alert. The figure is unrecognizable, a faceless assassin, wearing a mask similar to the one Syrio had worn earlier. But this one isn't a friendly figure. It's a foe, and it's here to stop Arya from discovering more. The figure lunges at her with incredible speed, but Arya's training kicks in. She parries the strike, and the two engage in a swift, violent battle. Steel clashes against steel, but Arya's movements are precise, her training with Syrio and the Faceless Men coming to the forefront. Arya moves like a blur, dodging the assassin's strikes and countering with precise, lethal movements. Her footwork, the same as Syrio taught her, makes her an unstoppable force in the battle. As the assassin's blade comes at her throat, Arya sidesteps, disarming him in one fluid motion. She's on him instantly, needle pressing to his throat. Arya, breathing heavily, voice cold. Who sent you? The assassin's eyes are filled with fear, a brief flicker of recognition in them before he says his final words. Faceless assassin, she knows the truth is not meant to be found. With that, the assassin falls to the ground, dead. Arya stood over the assassin's body, her heart still pounding. There was no doubt in her mind. This was no coincidence. Someone, somewhere, didn't want her to find Syrio. But why? What was so dangerous about the truth? Syrio approaches, his face unreadable. His eyes, usually so filled with passion, now seem clouded with regret. Syrio Forel, you've chosen, Arya, but the road ahead is not without consequence. The Faceless Men will hunt you. You cannot outrun them. Arya, looking him in the eyes, I won't run, not from them, not from the truth. As she spoke those words, Arya knew she was on the edge of something far greater than she had ever anticipated. The world she thought she knew had just cracked open, and there was no turning back. The Faceless Men were everywhere, hidden in plain sight. But Arya Stark had never been one to shy away from a fight, especially when it was about finding out the truth. Part 6. The Mask of the Past. The night falls over the island, and Arya stands alone on the cliffside, gazing out at the vast ocean. The wind howls through the trees, the sound of crashing waves almost deafening, but Arya feels a sense of calm within herself. For the first time, she feels like she knows exactly what she has to do. The puzzle pieces have finally come together. Arya had always lived in the shadows, first in Winterfell, then in King's Landing, then in Braavos. But now, she was standing on the precipice of something that could change everything. She had to face her past, her training with Syrio, the Faceless Men, and the future that lay ahead of her. But the past had a way of catching up, and Arya had no idea just how dangerous the next step would be. As Arya prepares to leave the island, she receives a message from a mysterious figure, an old acquaintance from Braavos. This figure offers to reveal the location of Syrio's final resting place, but it comes at a price. Arya must make a difficult choice: align herself further with the Faceless Men, or risk everything to uncover the truth. The meeting takes place at an old tavern, where the air is thick with tension. The figure, cloaked in shadows, hands her an old faceless mask, a symbol of the world she's about to enter. Mysterious figure, if you seek Syrio Forel's final answer, you must wear this mask. The truth comes at a cost, Arya Stark, a price you may not be ready to pay. Arya's fingers brushed the mask, her breath caught. Was this the final step? Was she willing to give up everything, her identity, her family, her future, just to uncover the truth about Syrio Forel? Or would she find a way to forge her own destiny? Arya holds the mask in her hands. The quiet sound of waves crashing against the shore fills the space around her. Finally, she makes her decision. Arya, whispering to herself, "I choose my own path." She leaves the mask behind, and the island disappears into the distance, swallowed by the dark ocean. Arya Stark is no longer a child of Westeros. She is a woman who will define her own destiny. Part 7. The Shadow of the Faceless Men. Arya stands alone on the edge of a cliff, the sun setting behind her, casting a fiery orange glow across the horizon. The waves crash against the rocks below, and the air is thick with the smell of salt and smoke. Her ship is anchored behind her, but she feels a strange weight in her chest. The truth about Syrio Forel has unsettled her more than she'd expected. He had become a faceless man, and in doing so, he had erased his own identity, leaving only shadows behind. Arya had always prided herself on knowing who she was. But now, with Syrio's truth revealed, she wasn't so sure. She had learned the art of the sword, trained with the Faceless Men, but now, what was she? Was she destined to follow Syrio's path, or was there another road waiting for her? As Arya walks down the rugged path leading to the village on the island, she's approached by an old woman wearing tattered robes. The woman's face is hidden beneath a hood, and her eyes gleam with an unsettling familiarity. "Old woman, you seek the truth, Arya Stark. But truth is a double-edged sword. For every answer, a new question arises." Arya, eyes narrowing, reaching for needle. "Who are you, and what do you know of me?" Old woman, in a rasping voice. "I know much about the Faceless Men, child. I was once part of their order, one who walked their path long before you did. Syrio Forel was never meant to be your teacher. He was always meant to be your shadow." Arya stood still, her heart pounding. A former member of the Faceless Men? How could this woman know so much about Syrio and his past? And why did she call him Arya's shadow? It felt like every piece of her past was slipping away, like the answers she had so desperately sought were now leading her down a darker path. The old woman takes Arya's hand and leads her to a hidden chamber beneath the village. The room is cold, with ancient symbols on the walls and strange artifacts scattered across the stone floor. At the center of the room is a small, wooden box. The old woman opens it, revealing a faceless mask and an old, weathered letter. Old woman, this is the truth, Arya. Syrio Forel never intended to be a sword master for Westeros. He was a man of many faces, long before you learned the water dance. His real mission was to infiltrate the world of the Faceless Men, to learn their ways, and eventually to serve their cause. Arya, whispering. So he knew. He knew what he was getting into. He became one of them. Old woman. Yes, he faked his death that day in King's Landing, but his work was far from over. He was never meant to fight for the throne. He was meant to shape the future, to mold someone like you into something much more dangerous. The revelation hit Arya like a thunderclap. She had always believed Syrio died protecting her, but now she understood. He had given up his life as she knew it, choosing a path of secrecy and sacrifice for something far greater than the sword. But why had he left her so many clues, so many signs? Was he trying to protect her from something? Or was he trying to pull her into the same world of shadows he had inhabited? The old woman hands Arya the faceless mask. Old woman, this is your inheritance, Arya Stark. Syrio left it to you. You are now the last of his legacy. Will you take the mask and become one of the Faceless Men? Or will you walk away and forge your own path? Arya hesitates. The mask feels cold in her hands, as if it's pulling her toward a destiny she has not chosen. But as she stares at the mask, she realizes that this is not just about following Syrio. It's about finding her own way, understanding who she truly is. Arya, to herself. I was never meant to be anyone's shadow. Syrio taught me to stand on my own, to survive the world on my own terms. I don't need the Faceless Men or their masks. I've already learned the greatest lesson of all, to live for myself. Arya knew that she could never be what Syrio had become. She could never be a faceless man, hiding behind masks and killing in the shadows. She had been taught to fight for herself, to protect those she loved, and to face the truth of the world, not hide from it. As Arya prepares to leave the village, the Faceless Men's agents find her. They arrive in the dead of night, masked and silent, ready to claim her as their own. They know she has rejected their offer, and in the world of the Faceless Men, there are no second chances. Arya faces them in the moonlight, her sword drawn. The Faceless Men are skilled, but Arya is ready. She uses everything she has learned, blending her training from Syrio Forel with the deadly tactics of the Faceless Men, but she fights on her terms, to live, to be free, to choose her path. The battle is fierce and quick, a dance of death and survival. Arya's movements are swift and fluid, her blade flashing in the moonlight. She takes down the first faceless assassin, then the next, each one falling before her will. But she is not without her scars. As the final Faceless Man approaches, she knows this will be the test, her ultimate decision. With one final strike, Arya defeats him, standing over his body, breathing heavily. As dawn breaks, Arya stands alone on the cliff, the sea stretching out before her. The Faceless Men are gone, and with them, the mystery of Syrio Forel. Arya knows now that her future is hers to choose, and the past, no matter how tangled, will not define her. Narration: Arya Stark had faced the shadows of the world, and she had defeated them. She had uncovered the truth about Syrio Forel, but in doing so, she had found herself. The road ahead was still uncertain, but Arya knew that no matter what came next, she would always walk it as Arya Stark, not the shadow of a dead teacher or a faceless man. Thank you for watching Part 5 to 7 of Arya Stark's incredible journey. Arya's path is getting darker and more intense as she uncovers the truth about Syrio Forel and faces the Faceless Men. But the adventure is far from over. If you can't wait to see how Arya's journey ends and the final showdown with the Faceless Men, make sure to catch Part 8 to 10 coming soon. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all our content. See you in the next episode.